You're up, Joe. Go.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for the client support call. We've been kind of talking through the habits of health a little bit and following what we were doing there. So this is going to be a condensed but combined call. We're going to cover week 4 of the habits of health this week. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Let me bring up my PowerPoint show. So here we are, week 4 of the habits of health class. And this week is really all about managing your energy and regulating your insulin pump, making things work for you, not against you. If you're kind of following along in the book, let me go back a slide. These are our resources, the Habits of Health system, Dr. Anderson's book, The Habits of Health, and Living a Longer, Healthier Life in the workbook. You're going to want to look at chapters 6 and 7 in Dr. A's book and lesson 8 from the workbook. The big thing is where we were versus where we are today. I call this the 10,000-year-old brain problem. Back then, when we were hunters and gatherers, the energy that we took in, the calories we consumed on a daily basis, just about equaled the energy that we expended to gather those resources. You know, we were picking berries and killing animals, and we were living in pretty good energy balance. The energy at the time was nutritionally dense, but calorically or energy sparse. And so we stayed in pretty good equilibrium. But in the last 100 years, a lot has changed. All of the industrial revolution stuff that came around about in the 20th century that helped us, all the time-saving devices, it meant that we didn't work as hard. We went from a largely agrarian society where we were farmers and ranchers and moved more into industrial cities. So our energy expenditure went down. The processing of food and then the spread of fast food that came about after that in the middle of the 20th century really meant that our energy in the food changed. Food became nutritionally sparse, but very energy dense. That means that we're getting a lot more calories, but less vitamins and minerals and nutrition in the food that we ate. And that really sprang up in the middle of the 20th century. And then we kind of became a culture based around consumption instead of production. We stopped making things and started just consuming things. A lot more, obviously, food consumption. We became a car-based society. So, the drive-through restaurants, the drive-in movies, means we stopped walking. We stopped expending energy in all of these other ways. And then came about radio and TV, really boomed in the 20th century, was invented in the 20th century. But along with that came radio and TV advertising. So we're getting inundated all around with all of these different images and resources trying to get us to buy food. Watch a single television show and just take a notepad and tally up the number of food-based commercials that you're going to see in 1 hour-long program. It will astound you, the images that we get. And then, women started going to work, which meant that they weren't home making meals, not to be a sexist thing or anything, but that it really changed the way we eat. So we focused a lot more on convenience, a lot less on whole foods and things that are being made and grown at home. And then, of course, my old life, the IT revolution. We don't even move back and forth to carry on conversations anymore. Through the IT revolution, we're able to do an awful lot of work just sitting at our desk, staring at a screen, counting how many calories we type, right? It's really changed the way that we interact with each other. So energy intake, we talked about energy balance. Energy in, calories are just a unit of energy versus calories out or energy out. When we're consuming more calories than we're burning, then we're building fat. It's kind of simple nutrition math. If we turn that around and we start expending more calories than we're consuming, that's where we burn fat or we lose weight. Really, that's the basis for it. We're taking in too many calories and we're working less for it, which means we're building fat. And you can see that over time. Here's how bad it's gotten just in the last couple of decades. Last, 30 years now? So this is the rate of growth of obesity in the different BMI categories. And I want you to look at that top number, that BMI 50. That was barely even measured 30 years ago, but now it's the fastest rate of growth in the year 2000. And we're another decade and a half past that. It's scary. But this is the harder part for me to look at. Percentage of U.S. children who are obese. In 1974, it was hovering around 5%. Now we're in 2008, when this study was done, we're approaching 20% for 6 to 11-year-olds who are obese with a high BMI. So they're already starting down the path of disease. That's why we had to rename type 2 diabetes. It used to be called adult onset diabetes, but we have kids as young as 6 and 7 coming down with adult onset diabetes or lifestyle diabetes. So they've renamed that type 2. And that for me is heartbreaking. This is breakdown from other countries. I'm just going to skip past that, and we'll talk about the core principles of weight loss. This is stuff just to hammer home the habits of health. Basically, control your energy intake. Are your calories in closely matching your calories out? That's going to be stasis. If your calories in is greater than what you're expending, you're going to build fat. And if you're expending more than you're consuming, then you're going to lose fat. That's the basics of it. But the bigger piece that a lot of people are going to miss is how to manage your insulin pump. I know you've all heard that eating 6 small meals a day is the healthier way to eat. Let's look at why that is. This is the glucose insulin response curve. And this is important to know. This is the science of eating 6 times a day. I want you to look first at the white line. That's what your baseline insulin level should be at, the amount of insulin in your bloodstream. Understanding that insulin is a hormone that's used to regulate and control your blood sugar. Your blood sugar for a normal adult human should be about between 80 and 120. If you're much out of that range for a long time, you're probably going to be diabetic, either above or below. So that's what your baseline insulin level should be. And that little dashed yellow line, that's your baseline blood glucose. The amount of sugar in your blood should be in that 80 to 120 milligrams per deciliter range. But let's look at how we eat. In the morning, maybe you grab a glass of orange juice or a nice sugary, frappy, frothy coffee that's really more of a dessert from a fast food chain. And this causes a big spike in your blood glucose because it's all sugar. And when that happens, your insulin response, remember, insulin controls your blood sugar. You get a big swell of insulin to take out all of that excess sugar that's in your blood. Well, when that happens, I'm sure somebody has maybe mentioned this, that 30-minute crash, the sugar crash. It's because too much insulin flooded into your body and it crashes out. It takes too much sugar out of your blood, and that's why your blood sugar dips below. And that's when people will start talking about feeling shaky. I'm hypoglycemic. I've got the shakes. I've got to get something. Now you're craving something sugary or carby. That's a bagel or a candy bar. Again, now you're spiking your blood sugar high again, and you're getting this big swell of insulin that crashes back down. And we're chasing this blood glucose insulin curve all day long with this high spikes of sugar. So our sugar is way too high in our body overall, if you look at the average, which means that our insulin's coming way up, and that's causing hyperinsulinism or insulin resistance. These are the precursors to type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes. Your pancreas, the organ that produces insulin, just can't keep up over time, and it's a very dangerous condition. So on the weight loss and health plan, this is a chart for people who are on the 5-in-1, and look at how we're managing that insulin pump. Wake up in the morning, first thing, right? Eat a meal replacement, a portion control meal replacement. That gives you just enough fueling, just-in-time fueling. Hopefully your coaches have been talking to you about just-in-time fueling, which means that you're getting a regular normal response to insulin, to that blood sugar, and it's regulating you very closely within the norms. And just when you're about to run out of fuel in your body, about 2.5 to 3 hours later, guess what? It's time to eat again. And you're going to get that nice smooth curve coming back up. So you're giving your body just the fuel it needs just in time before you run out of gas. And then you have your normal meal, but you're regulating insulin and taking out those big spikes. You're regulating your blood sugar, taking out those big spikes, and lowering both of them overall. When you get into maintenance and you're out of the weight loss phase, the curve looks very similar. You're going to eat a low glycemic index meal for breakfast, low GI. So not this big sugar spike, but balanced with protein and carbs, and get that nice normal rise of insulin. And then have a mid-morning fueling. Maybe it's another meal replacement. Maybe it's something else from the healthy snack list, but low glycemic. That's really important. So we're not spiking the blood sugar and causing this big swell of insulin. And then you just eat that normal pattern, that normal cadence every 2.5 to 3 hours. That's why it's a habit of health. This is the science behind 6 small fuelings per day. Now, we'll skip past that. That's the stay in the bus video, and I don't want to take up valuable time with it, but really what it comes down to is, how do we make a microenvironment of health? How do we kind of build our world around us so that it's easier to stay on the bus? It's easier to stay on track. So we're not skipping past, so we're not, falling into old habits and maybe eating some stuff that's higher glycemic, or indulging a little bit over here. Just this once. We want to build an environment of health around us. First thing to do, check out your refrigerator. Make sure that you're getting rid of the whole fat dairy, any highly processed meats, think Spam, hot dogs, things like that. Your soda, beer, wine, high calorie, high fat, high sugar toppings and dressings, that little bottle of, maybe chocolate syrup that's in the door or whatever. We want to kind of rid the house of those things. Look in your pantry. Get rid of the white flour, the enriched white flour, the enriched white rice, white bread, any of the hydrogenated oils, margarines, refined cereals, highly sugary cereals, flavored oatmeal, instant oatmeal. Those things are much higher in the glycemic index, and we'll talk about those later on in the series. Cookies, candy, cake, the chips, the pretzels, the snacky stuff that you just kind of go to. Reorganize your pantry. Get rid of those if you can. And this one always amazes me when I'm talking with clients. I'm like, well, but I only have that stuff around for the kids. I have kids. I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, a 2-year-old, and now a 6-month-old boy. And I struggled with this at first because I want to provide, things for them. But think about what you're modeling. My older girls, to be honest, full disclosure, they're struggling right now. They're struggling with their weight, and they're struggling with healthy choices. And part of that's because of how I modeled it for them early in their life. So, really take a long, hard look at what you're presenting as a healthy option for your family, for your kids. You have the power right now to form their habits for the rest of their life. You have the power to form their taste for the rest of their life. There are no cheats. There are only choices. So choose wisely and really think about, do you need to have all of those snacky things for ready access? It doesn't mean you never give them ice cream again. It doesn't mean that you don't bake cookies at Christmas. But think about the habits that you're setting them up with too, because it's going to be with them forever. Again, bedroom, let's look at getting rid of the clutter. Take the TV out of the bedroom. Don't eat in bed. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Habit of healthy sleep. It's very important. And then, put in some of the other things: long grain brown rice, canola oil, olive oil is very good. The natural oatmeals, the rolled oats or steel cut oats, and then whole grain, multi-grain breads. Those are much lower in glycemic impact. So then when I'm thinking about, all right, I want to get out of here. This is too hard. This is too tough for me. Focus on, eating the leaner options. Focus on what you can do to reduce your calories. Focus on, okay, I need to make a choice. Let's eat the leaner protein. Let's go for some olives instead of, a big thing of buttermilk, green vegetables. Focus on the positive things, not the stuff you're trying to avoid. You go where you're looking. If you've ever ridden a horse or ridden a motorcycle and you see something that's dangerous, you don't look at the tire in the middle of the road, because as soon as you do, you're going to hit it. You look around it so you don't smack into the thing you're trying to avoid. And that's an important thing. Focus where you want to go. Focus on health rather than the avoidance mentality. I'm going to blow through a couple of quick slides. These are in the book. These are in the Habits of Health book, chapter 6 and 7. All of the lean choices and, the vegetable options and healthy fats in what portions. So you have a quick reference. Meat and poultry, obviously, buffalo, elk, deer, the gamey meats, those are the leanest that you're going to get. Next after that is whole breast, white meat, turkey, and chicken, pork tenderloins, ground turkey, and then underneath that, you're looking at lean cuts of beef like flank steak, beef steak, roast, lean ground beef, 93.7 at the maximum fat content, pork chops, things like that. Healthy fats and oils. Fats and oils are very important. A zero fat diet is not a healthy diet. You have to maintain the healthy fats. It's good for your gallbladder. It's important for certain minerals and vitamins that are absorbed and soluble within fats and lipids. But think of canola oil, flaxseed oil, olives are a great source. Avocado is another great source, but in tight moderation. It's important to understand that because fats are very calorie dense, you have to measure. You have to be very careful with your fat portions. Half a cup of guacamole is not a healthy fat serving. It's a very large serving of a healthy fat, but it's several hundred calories for that. So really make sure that you're watching your portions with healthy fats. Green vegetables, again, I'm just going to kind of blow through these. There are three different categories, the lowest carbohydrate up to the highest carbohydrate that are still on our 5-in-1 plan. Again, look in the book, chapter 6 and 7, but think of the green leafy things, not the starchy carby things. We're not looking for potatoes. Sorry, potatoes are not a vegetable. Potatoes are a starch. They're carb. But in terms of vegetables, looking for greens, romaine lettuce, endave, just different green leafy things, radishes, cucumber sprouts, turnip greens. And then a little higher on the carbohydrate level, but still good, still low GI, asparagus, cabbage, cauliflower. I use a ton of cauliflower, kale, spinach, and then summer squashes, and especially zucchini. Zucchini we do a lot with. A little higher in carbohydrates, broccoli, red cabbages, green beans, wax beans, okra, peppers, red and yellow peppers are a little higher in carbs even than that. But these are still within our 5-in-1 eating plan and highly, highly nutritious. But the more vegetables you're eating, the higher fiber you're taking in, when that's healthier across the board for cholesterol and GI health. It's very important to get good soluble fiber. This is what I was talking about. 1 gram of fat contains 9 calories. It's twice as much as protein and carbs. So someone put up a video not too long ago what 200 calories looks like in different foods, and it's like 20 almonds. It's a quarter cup of almonds is 200 calories. It's because they're high in fat, high in fiber, totally healthy, but portion control really matters. And while fats do help with satiety, they help less. They're less impactful for that feeling of being satisfied than slow carbs, which means the complex carbohydrates that you're going to get from vegetables, green leafy things. Okay. Healthy snacks and condiments, things that you can look at for those in-between meals. On the 5-in-1, we're going to look for things like celery stalks, 3 celery stalks, sugar-free popsicle, some Jell-O, and then condiments. These are all in the quick start guide. If you're on the 5-in-1, you can take a look there. I don't need to go into too much detail. But just to recap, the biggest thing that we're looking at for healthy weight loss is we want to control our energy intake, take in less energy than we're consuming, but still do it in a healthy way that's complete nutrition. That's why the meal replacements are so important. You're getting complete nutrition, you're not in starvation. But that's the quality of the food. Are you getting enough protein, enough carbohydrates, enough healthy fats in the right balance and proportions, at a lower energy intake than, or energy density than what you're spending by just breathing and being alive. So that's those are kind of the keys. Manage your energy intake, manage your insulin pump, and make it work for you, not against you. So I'm going to stop the share now and see if there are any questions. Anybody? I see something in the chat.
That was great, Joe. That was actually really good.
Thank you. So if there are no other questions, I know Troy wanted to do a thing with working through a well-being evaluation.
Rick, can you stop recording and I'll start it again?